Well, welcome back to the Built Different podcast. Fellas, good to see you again. Another great week. Another fun conversations of all things going on. How are you guys doing? Brian?
This might be my favorite time of the week now. We've done this enough times that I'm starting to think we're rising in the ranks.
Watch out. You're making Jarvis blush down there. Jarvis, good to see you, man. How are things out your way?
Things are good. Yeah. Like Brian said, this is one of the highlights of my weeks. I mean, I love working with customers and stuff. I also love just getting together with you two and seeing what's going on in the industry and having some folks on and just chatting.
Is this what you expected, Jarvis, when we tapped your shoulder of like, hey, man, you want to come in and have some fun with us? Or is this like totally not what you were expecting?
This is kind of what I thought it was going to be. I mean, I know you from the past, Grant, and it's been fun to, kind of get together with Viz and get to know him a little bit more, but this is totally what I expected, just knowing you.
Okay, well, that's kind. I didn't know where you were going to go with that. I was kind of t-balling you up there, but no, this is fun, fellas. We are like kind of embarrassingly rich of the conversations that we get to have and just people that we get to bring on. So, and this week is no different. So I'm excited to kind of run down what we're going to kind of chat through. So, similar to last week, we have another featured guest that we're going to bring on, and so I'm very excited for us to get to introduce him and just go through a little bit of his story. I love just the opportunity for us to get to meet more folks, bring them in, ask them some really good questions. We got a featured guest that we're going to dive into, and really just these two kind of talking points as part of the rundown of just flipping the script, kind of a non-traditional role that is pushing innovation, which I'm excited to talk about, and then just his message over to folks that are in similar roles like he is. So who is this guest? Who are we bringing in? And so I'm very excited that we are going to bring in Jan. And so Jan is a superintendent by background and has a really illustrious career, just even getting to know him and his role within Alvin, which is a construction manager up in the Pennsylvania area, which would be really cool to talk about, and his background in the military, which I think will also be kind of fun to chat about as well. And so just some really good stuff here. Jarvis, this is your guest, so I'm really excited to get to mix in and chat with him as well. But without further ado, should we bring him in? Let's do it. Fellas, come on. How we doing? Jan, great to meet you, friend. Glad that you're in.
Yeah,
and,
thank you.
Very excited to have you on.
Thanks.
Jarvis was saying earlier before on the pre-show, I think the nicest office I've ever seen from a superintendent. I know you're in between jobs here, but yeah, it's looking nice, a little bit better than a field trailer setup. You know what I'm saying?
It is. They put me in a float office in between jobs, so I try to make it as homely as I can.
Yeah, anything that has a vest in the background and some stuff. I see the drone box back there too. I mean, it's as if you kind of set up your space knowing we were going to chat today. I know you probably didn't, but it looks very studio-esque.
I actually was just out flying a job just right down the street at noon, so it was a busy day.
No surprise. There we go. And that is a very good segment into what we're going to be talking about. Just very excited to kind of hear from you a little bit. We'll get into a little bit of your background and just would love to kind of hear what got you interested. I know your background is, you were a laborer at Alvin a long time ago and then had some military background and then came back from the superintendent side of it. So yeah, I would just love to kind of give the folks a little bit of a background of who you are, what kind of got you interested, not only in the construction side of it, but then we'll get into kind of the tech side of it, which is what really prompted us to want to have a conversation with you and kind of your role and interest in the things you're pushing at Alvin.
Yeah, no problem. Where do you want to start?
Man, that's a great question. Let's start with maybe just the time on the superintendent side of it. So what did you know that you kind of always wanted to be on the superintendent side of it when you joined back on the team, or what was kind of your interest from getting out into the field and kind of getting going from your time there at Alvin?
I never really, when I started with Alvin H. Butz in 1999, I never really pictured myself, hey, I'm gonna move up. I want more responsibility. I was somewhat, new to the concrete crew. That's where I started, pulling footers, foundations, slab on deck, slab on grade, in the grunt of it. And just slowly started working my way up, became a foreman, working my way up from there, and got the opportunity to help out a superintendent at a hospital job. He had to move on, and he was like, we're turning this over to you. And I was like, I don't know about that, but he had a lot of faith, and it was a great opportunity, and I really took to it. Um,
I love that you put
yeah,
a little time box on 1999. For those that are doing quick math in your head, that's over. Well, I need to do the quick math in my head. It's what is that, like 27
26.
years?
Not that quick.
That's not the quick math. I was trying to do it in my head. Yeah, I'm like, what year are we in? 2025. Yeah, but yeah, I maybe kind of a softball question for you, Jan. Like, what's been your relationship with technology? I mean, I think on the field side of it and the superintendent side of it, like, what I'm sure it's changed a lot. 25 plus years, it's looked different in your kind of time and career. But yeah, talk a little bit about that, and obviously we'll get into more of it here as we keep the convo going.
it has changed drastically. Um, I mean, I remember going to the office, having a superintendent, roll out the plans. Anytime that we had to go look at the plans, we're marching up to the field office or looking at the prints, in the field. And now you're carrying around an iPad that has, Plan Grid or Procore, whatever platform that you're using. It has totally changed, and all for the better.
Was your would you say you are pretty pro, like open to using it, like when it was first starting to kind of come around, or were you more skeptical? Like, where did you kind of land on the spectrum of like, yeah, I'm open to using some of this stuff, or like, dude, there's no way that, I want to kind of introduce something new into the workflows and stuff that I'm doing to get work done?
I was all for it. There's only so many trips back and forth to the field office or running or carrying a set of prints around. So when we started putting the blueprints, on an iPad, automatically pushing the updates, you always know that you're working with the update version. It was great. And yeah, I don't think there's nothing looking back.
It's funny.
Not really with.
Yeah, it's funny. A couple weeks ago, we had an episode. March Madness has kind of come to an end now, but like we had these topics and brackets of all these different tools and workflows and processes. And one of them in the hardware bracket was, things like drones and 360 cameras. And I think all of us were surprised what came out of that bracket was just an iPad, like a tablet, of all these different tools and all these things that folks had kind of been using. And yeah, it's interesting that, if that's kind of your, mentality of using, like, hey, that's your entry point into technology, is just saving me an extra trip to the field office or going out to the field to answer something. It's pretty interesting to hear. Jarvis, I want to kick it over to you.
Right.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, when you're talking about a time saver, when you're a superintendent, running back and forth to the field office or, going to look at prints, keeping those prints up to date, pulling out the old ones, putting in new ones, that's all time, and time is money. So I think it's a great tool to have on the site.
Yeah. Jarvis, I'm going to kick this one over to you, my friend. We're going to dive into the second topic here, which is really what I think prompted us to want to bring Jan on and talk through some of these things as well, which is just kind of flipping the script. This is kind of a new, I would say, Jan, you're not what I would call a very typical superintendent. And what I wanted to do was really just kind of bring the floor to you, or really to Jarvis, to kind of lead this discussion and conversation of just what you're doing there and what's kind of been your new approach to some of these things. So Jarvis, I'm gonna give you the mic, my friend, and let's dive into the flipping of the script.
Sounds like a plan to me. Well, Jan, thanks for being on, brother. Yeah, kind of like Grant said, out of my entire customer book, you're the only superintendent champion that I've got. That's a completely different dynamic that I've seen in the AEC industry. Like, you're the evangelist, but you're also the superintendent who historically, and I'd say typically, Grant and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, like the superintendents are one of the last to adopt, the last to accept. But I guess for me, one of the questions I've got is, what was kind of the catalyst for you? We'll start specifically with drones, since we're built different, DroneDeploy, and that's kind of your niche at the moment. But what was the catalyst for you specifically with drones on a project that got you kind of all in with those and pushing the envelope there?
I guess when we started using the drones for logistics. And when we're doing like RFPs and, we're going after a job, you only can get, such a limit of the quality on Google Earth. We would try to pull, Google Earth imagery and stuff. You zoom in, it gets distorted, and then you end up with a terrible product. And my first drone, the Maverick Pro, even though, it's like a dinosaur now, but it still had a decent camera, that I could, get some decent images looking straight down, and then our 3D guy, Steve Kineski, he would work his magic, start overlaying stuff through and all of our site logistics on it. And it became a huge hit, and people were like, how are you doing this? What's going on? And it just took off from there. It was when I was doing some work out in Western Pennsylvania, helping out our sister company, Alexander. And that's when I got a user license to just start getting into DroneDeploy. So I started going through the DroneDeploy school, checking this out. And I'm like, man, my drone's not even compatible to do some of this stuff. I'm like, I got to bust a move. So I ended up upgrading just to the Maverick 2 Pro. Like I said, I was doing this on my own. I'm like, I'm just trying to set myself up, so I had the tool there ready when the opportunity rises. So it was really neat. And then there was a break in action from there because that project ended, and so did the user's license. So I didn't get to do any kind of like field work with the program. So long story short, last year, one of our clients, when you guys took over Struction Site and it became, DroneDeploy Ground, they seen the air tab, and the customer was like, what is that? And the project team started talking to them about drones, and they're like, yeah, we want it. So I was like, all right, here we go. So yeah, I just dove right into it. It was a learning curve. I mean, like, you do online training, through the DroneDeploy, but till you get in there and you start actually, uploading it and you learning all the ins and outs and stuff, it was a little bit of a learning curve, but yeah, we got through it and it's going good. Yeah, it's going real good.
That's a very humble and simple answer there. It's going good. I do know Jarvis can kind of talk to this too. You guys just had a big company meeting, kind of some awards that were given out, and just kind of receive an award. I don't know how often this happens of a software company receiving some praise or thanks of just helping you guys continue to push boundaries and do the work that you're doing. But yeah, I'm curious, Jan, like, did it surprise anyone within your guys' team of just your role specifically? Meaning like, hey, you're a guy that's boots on the ground, putting work in the ground out, on site, and yet you're the one kind of elevating some of these things to, I think you just said it, like, you have a need, and it's like that need is to better communicate, whether that's in the pre-con phase or, during construction. But did it surprise anyone as you were kind of explaining some of this stuff and just them saying, Jan's the one bringing this up? Like, that's not very typical.
I really don't know if it surprised anyone. Typically I like being involved with like the RFP process, site logistics, getting that superintendent set of eyes on it, making sense of it before we push that out to a client. Once they see it and buy into it, sometimes it gets a little hard to change that because you're ready, that was their first snapshot of, what we're promising them. So yeah, that was the really start of, the importance of getting involved in that, in the RFP process, the presentations, sitting down, round table with the owners.
Brian, I want to.
No, I'm not sure if it surprised anybody. I don't know.
No, that's good. No, Brian, I know you got some thoughts up there. What do you got?
Can you tell?
I see your wheel spinning.
Yeah, no,
I'm watching these questions go across.
Yeah, it's like ticker symbols on the Nasdaq, but whatever. So let's get into it. You are very active on LinkedIn, which means you're probably seeing a lot of the same things that we see, right? And I feel like there's a big community of people who almost speak for the superintendent world, right? Like if you're not doing this for your superintendents, but I don't see as many superintendents being as vocal about what they kind of care and what they need. And I also see this, I constantly will challenge the concept of like superintendents as a whole or as a general, anytime anyone talks about anything as a whole, as like they are like the construction industry is slow to adopt technology, and they may not want to, you may have more resistance from your superintendent field than anything. But I would say in my past I've had more success with going through the superintendent team than I have even sometimes on the technology side, because as a superintendent you are in the rooms where you understand that that map is situationally going to make an advantage for you at that time, in that moment in time. And if you don't have the context of the project, it's hard for someone who's not in the day-to-day struggles of that project to understand, yes, a drone could be used to, yeah, for example, for me, I had this one project where we had these three different roofs, these like very small architectural detailed roofs. And for me, using the drone there was way more powerful than just doing a map, right? But I mean, like, could you talk more about, you having the context of a project and why that's so important on when you're implementing tech, as opposed to just blanket statement, we need to do drones from a edict from all high.
No, absolutely. When I first started using DroneDeploy to its fullest capabilities, it was at a school project, and that's when I really started getting into it. And when we started inviting all the project members to the job site that I set up on DroneDeploy, we started taking it. Of course, we invited the owners, of the project, all of our field supervision, project managers, project engineers, all the way down to the the financial end of it, the ladies doing the billing in the office. And one of the things that was brought up, they're like, hey, this is a very useful tool. They can log in and they can see a snapshot of the job site. And this isn't just for billing. This is for anybody in senior leadership. Hey, what's going on, at the school project? If they don't have time to go out there and walk the job site, it's one click of a mouse. You just got a 3D imagery, you got the map, you got all the photos to go along with it. Plus you have all the drone deployed ground that they can, walk through, do a virtual walk through the building. It's like a one-stop shop, and it really went well, and it's gaining traction, every week. We're finding more and more uses for it.
Jane, is there anyone that you've been surprised by that's kind of like latched on to the value it's brought them without maybe them realizing that at kind of the get-go? Like you talked about, it's interesting, we have some statistics and numbers of what an average project, user count brings in. And you can definitely tell a difference between, call it the top end of those that is bringing, quite a few folks into these projects to kind of the mid-tier. But yeah, anything stand out from, when you started bringing people in, what surprised you of the value that they were getting out of it?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, every time I get to use it and I upload a new map, it's neat. I got to go in there, move some stuff around, filter out some stuff. But as far as like any certain division of people that surprised me, not really. I mean, today's day and age, I mean, technology is moving at such a pace. You either hop on the train or you miss quite a few stations real fast.
That's a clip. That one. That's a quote. Yeah. I mean, James, just something on that that's super interesting to me, and I can only speak about my past experience, and I can't say every company is like this, but you tell me, right? There's like this weird relationship between a technology team and being perceived as overhead or needing to stay billable to projects, and then the project teams, you know, only really being able to adapt things when they have the budget. And then you have this weird gray area where a company, if they really, really feel inclined to want this software, they'll cover it outright, and then either they'll charge back the project or they'll just cover it. What do you think is like a good, what, like in a perfect world, what do you think the strategy should be for like cost recovery and who owns it? And like, do you feel like it's a ever like a roadblock or a hurdle for the project teams to get something on their project?
I think that I think that's all depending on the size of a project. And you got to be respectful of the total cost of a project. You take a $250 million project, trying to recoup some of the cost of using the tech really isn't a problem. You get down to a 10, 15, $20 million project, things get a little bit tighter, so that's always a challenge. And I'm not a billing expert. I don't know how that's set up. So I'm not going to assume anything and I'm not going to quote anything about that. But it is something that, it is taken into consideration, and they try to sell, not sell it, but share that cost equally. It's all driven by, the length of the project, the size of the team, the total cost of the project. There's an equation that's out there. I'm just not previous to it.
Would you say you have like a preference more? Because I know you're like the way in which you kind of just said, "Hey, I'm gonna go get this. I'm gonna go learn it on my own and then bring it to a job." Like, is there? Do you feel like that's for folks that are maybe getting like stuck, or they're like, "Oh, I gotta go jump through all these hoops." Like, if you were to go back and do it again, do you feel like the approach that you took of just like, I'm just gonna go do this and bring it to my job and like put it out there to start getting value from? Like, would you encourage others that same way, or would you maybe approach it differently now looking back?
I guess I got to ask Grant, are you talking about using DroneDeploy or just using drones just, within its own tech?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably drones within its own tech, like the drone deploy side of it. That can kind of live on a job and kind of do its own thing. But yeah, I think what's interesting about what I know of your story is like, hey, I need a tool to do this, and you didn't really like go through normal kind of circumstances to make that happen. You're just like, well, I'm just gonna go do it. And I think what's interesting about that is like a lot of people get stuck at the hurdles, or maybe use the hurdles as like excuses of like, oh, this isn't gonna work. And every company's different, like you said, every job is different, every size of it, how it gets paid for. But yeah, I just think, looking back, just more from the general side of using tools, like how would you like, what would you say? Maybe would you approach it differently, or like, no, I'd do that exact same thing again?
I would do it the exact same way, I believe. I mean, I don't think I've ruffled anybody's feathers in the company. I think it was looked at as a very positive thing to have. At Alvin H. Butz, we also have a fire and flood restoration division. So when I started going out and doing aerial shots and stuff, and the one project manager from the insurance division, he was like, "Hey, he's like, you know, this would be great if I could have you come out and do some roof inspections on a 3-tier house, and I'll have to get extension ladders out, take the safety aspect out of it." And it works great. I mean, I could be done with a roof inspection before they could even have ladders set up. I mean, it's just like I said, the uses are endless.
I
Yeah, I
think,
mean,
yeah,
it's great. Like I said, just putting drone deploy program to the side, facade, looking at facades, looking at inspections up high that you would have to rent, a basket reach, all that comes at a cost. You can do it for a fraction of the cost with a drone, and get some really good high quality images with it.
as you guys have done more within your team, talk about just the other folks that have become interested, maybe in some of the workflows that you're doing, and their ears perk whether it's in company meetings or superintendent meetings, like what's that kind of been like as being kind of the pioneer for doing some of this stuff? And then I'm assuming fielding questions from other folks of like, hey, what's Jen doing over there? Like, what was that on that project? What does that kind of look like?
The teams that are active on job sites that were using DroneDeploy, like they see it and they get it like really quick. There's a handful of superintendents out there. They're really starting to get into using it, with all of the tools, that you can utilize on the program. The ones that haven't had exposure to it yet, um, it really hard to say. I haven't heard anything good or bad from it yet, but that was one of the things that we set up a tri-company training event on this Friday to bring in all the project managers, all the project engineers, superintendents, just to show everybody, like let's all get on the same page and let me show you exactly what this does and how it benefits us, in the field and as a company.
Yeah, totally. Jarvis, you want? Yeah, go for. I know you got
Yeah,
something.
Jan, real quick. So kind of in some messaging kind of thought process here, like drones for Jan are a requirement or a necessity for like what has been your top scope, top thing that you say drones have impacted me and my project the most on X, to kind of get that message to superintendents that, it may not be useful for this, it may not have a spot for this, but for facade inspections or waterproofing or earthworks, what's the thing that you think drones just latch onto for you and projects?
Uh, I haven't been on a job of my own yet that we got to use DroneDeploy. So I'm hoping that's be coming up soon. But as far as the other jobs that I've been flying for it, I think the thing that really stands out is the annotations that you can make on the map in the field off your phone, off your iPad, and then going from there, the more you get somebody to use it in the field, the more you benefit from the reports. So now you're going to bring that in, you know, at your foreman's meeting, at your project manager's meeting, at your owner's meeting, and that's where you really start gaining the traction of how it should be used, in my opinion.
Jen, I want to ask a question here, kind of maybe shifting a little bit of flipping the script. Brian mentioned this a little bit ago, but I want to talk about your interest in posting some of this stuff on LinkedIn. I mean, I think that's a pretty unique thing, again, from let's call it the superintendent perspective. But this is no small post here for those, again, that are just listening. And you got to watch us. You got to watch these things to get the full experience. But yeah, I mean, this is something that obviously was a big job that you were excited to kind of talk about and showcase. 300 plus, likes and engagement, which again, that is it's no small feat for some of this stuff. But yeah, talk to me about just like your excitement to want to show this to more people. And I mean, this is one post, but there's a handful of other ones that you've done that I think has just gotten a lot of people excited about what it is that you guys are doing. But yeah, what's the motivation behind these?
So this was actually, I was on this project. We were doing a facade replacement in the center of this hospital. This is Lehigh Valley Hospital. Uh, on when I asked the one senior PM from the hospital, I'm like, hey, has anybody ever like modeled your whole entire campus? And they're like, no, not. They're like, yeah, we had some marketing drone flights and stuff like that. I'm like, we're getting ready to go after an RFP, and it's going to be a pretty substantial job at this location. And talking to my senior leadership and the project manager, I'm like, let me present this, let me coordinate this with medevac, their helicopter. As you can see, there's a helicopter pad there, so coordination. I got all that dialed in, got permission from the hospital, and it was a 127 acre 3D model that I produced. And Steve Kineski, he took this little clip, got it rotating, recorded it, sent it to me, and I was like, I'll make a sweet post, I'm gonna throw this up there. And it just took off. I'm like, I'm getting invitation requests from people overseas. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
But
did that like
it showed me like the interest that's out there and how many people are interested in this technology. So anytime I did something, flew a mission or a big model, I throw it out there. It's great to show the technology that we're doing here at Alvin H. Butz. And, we hope to keep, showcasing it on the projects.
Yeah, the power of a video is quite significant, especially when I think again it comes from different folks, and there's folks out there that's kind of all the things that they post, which is great. But yeah, it's been cool. I mean, again, that's one of them. Again, I'm scrolling up kind of through your LinkedIn feed here too, but just another one that you'd kind of had, which was talking about some data and stockpile stuff that was pretty interesting too. But yeah, I mean, after posting that and getting some engagement from folks, like anything come from it? Like, did your own team kind of ask some questions, or even talk to? I'm gonna get this Steven, right? Like you're kind of Batman and Robin of sorts on some things that you guys are doing, but yeah, like what else kind of came from this? I mean, I'm sure there were some kind of questions and eyebrows raised when some folks are engaging on this stuff.
We actually had a really big project not too far from our downtown office. It was the old Air Products site, and this place was huge. I can't even tell you how many buildings were on it. And when they seen that and they heard about doing stockpile reports, they demoed all these buildings and they had their on-site crusher there crushing up all the concrete, making huge piles of crushcrete. And they're like, we want you to come out and do a stockpile report of all this material, and then we want to see, because they were using all that material to backfill all the demoed foundations. And I ran the stockpile report. They were using the tech and the calculations, and they trucked and they manifested and weighed all that material, and they said it was like within a couple hundred cubic yards. And if you see these piles, I mean, it was humongous piles. It was pretty impressive, and
Yeah,
and they were impressed as well.
yeah, that's awesome.
It's funny that you say it. So we had another we had a superintendent join us on a private call from Vaughn Construction, which was great. And it's interesting because a majority of your job is relationship based, right? You're interacting with so many different personalities in the day to day, and making sure you know you gently can remind people of a scenario that maybe they don't remember correctly, or you're like, okay, yeah, like your report showing this thing, like I can, like, let me just bring an unbiased report or unbiased representation of reality that isn't my personality, my personal opinion or your personal opinion, and it kind of takes the guesswork out of that. So a lot of conversations. I mean, hey, like was that, was that wall damage, or did someone run into it with a scissor lift this week? Like, that was
Yeah, absolutely.
it sounds dumb because everyone's going to show you these crazy stockpiles, but also it's just like these conversations that just get a lot easier when it's not like me versus you. It's, this is the photo. Like, great.
Right. But I think what you're talking about more is kind of like pre-construction before, like you really get like geared up on a job site. So we do a lot of pre-construction photography. We just did a big project right across the street. I took Jarvis for a quick tour of that, the Da Vinci Science Center. And before we started there, I did multiple drone flights, just taking pictures of surrounding buildings, foundations, facades, because we had some major earthwork that we had to do. We had 198 micropiles, that we had to drill down the bedrock. So we had, I think it was like a 13 or a 14-foot cut of the whole entire site. So we had a lot of equipment moving a lot of earth, and we wanted to, protect ourselves and, keep us out of that liability clause. Hey, we got a crack in our foundation. Ah, it's all documented. Sidewalks, streets, facades, foundations. We cover it all. We like I said, I try to use that drone like a cheap tool. Gotta work it. Gotta work it.
That's awesome. Jen, I'm going to take us into kind of this last topic here. Let me pull it up on our slide here. There we go. Of just like, yeah, kind of your message, maybe out to other superintendents that are just other folks that are like curious about this stuff. What I wanted to kind of do here, you mentioned this a little bit ago, but just kind of you're surprised at like the outputs that can come from it, right? You're like, all right, I kind of scratched the surface, tip of the iceberg, whatever you want to call it, and there's like so much more underneath it. Like I know you guys are also doing some really good stuff with some safety reports and some other outputs of some things that are going on. But like what I wanted to kind of do was maybe hit to this last point, which is really just, yeah, what would your message be to other folks that are like on the fence about, I don't know, this sounds too confusing. It sounds a little bit more complex. Like I don't want to learn another tool. Like what would you say to folks that that may have that kind of mentality?
I would say you definitely don't you can't be scared or deterred of the technology. Um, these drones, I for myself, I have never had any technical issue or any catastrophic failure, anything like that that ever happened in a flight. Knock on wood, I've never crashed one. And the way these drones are set up today's day and age, like you really got to do some work to crash one if you don't have it set up right to begin with. All I can say is don't be scared of the technology. You gotta drones to me, and I'm not trying to downgrade drone pilots, but I think you could teach a chimpanzee to fly a drone. And it probably has been done. And I'm not trying to downgrade, drone pilots. There's all kinds of different pilots. Um, I started out flying RC fixed wing gliders, big gliders, 6 foot, 10 foot gliders. From there, got into flying helicopters. So to me, flying drones is is really easy. It's not like your thumbs are going crazy like when you're flying a helicopter. So message out to any other superintendents or any other people out there looking to get into it, take take the leap.
Yeah,
Just do it.
we like to say start simply, simply start around here. That kind of gets brought up
Yeah.
quite a bit. But yeah, Jarvis, any questions? I know you're stirring down there.
Always tell when the gears are going. Yeah, I guess Jen, for me, the most interesting bit of your story is, yeah, you took it all into your own hands. You're able to kind of turn back around and get the company bought in to your vision, your dream, what's happening. And like you said, they're buying drones, buying licenses, buying, seats at the table with drone technology, or specifically. But like, I guess, what do you see coming down the pipe that's got you just excited, like is coming next?
I see a lot of bigger job opportunities that are just like right at the beginning stage of getting started, and some of them are ready. They're already saying right off the bat, we're using DroneDeploy, throughout this project. So, like I said, it's gaining traction as far as like the company and where it's going to go from here. I mean, I have my hopes and dreams, but that's all they are, is hopes and dreams. I mean, I'd love to see, getting more pilots trained up, getting them geared up, and whether it's more superintendents or even project engineers, let's get these guys licensed and let's get them some gear. I mean, that's my vision.
Yeah, you kind of stole a question I was going to ask you. Like, do you think there's a certain profile of a person or staff member on a job that you feel would be ideal? Like, would you encourage other superintendents to be pilots, or would you say maybe a different role? Or
No, I would absolutely encourage superintendents. I mean, we're there every day. Project engineers, they're usually there every day. Project managers, all depending on the size of the project, if it's the co-location or design build, right on location, it's all different. But I would highly recommend superintendents and project engineers to get involved and and get trained up.
And what would you say to folks? You kind of alluded to the easy part of it, but like for folks that are like, oh, this is going to take away from my job. I got another task I got to add to my to do list. Like, obviously, there's some gap there of what it is versus what it actually is. But yeah, what would you say to folks that are like, nah, I don't want to do that because it takes away from my job?
It does, but it only becomes a hinder if you don't have a strong team. Like I'm not a one man band on my job site. I have a project engineer, um, project manager. So if I need to schedule, which I do, I schedule flights. I'm like, hey, listen, if I'm active on a job site, I make sure I have coverage on my site before I leave. I'm like, hey, I got to scoot and boot for about an hour and a half. I'll be back. So they cover that, and if I'm not able to do it, sometimes I just have to do it when I get done closing down my job site, and just, kind of do it on my own time if needed. I've done it, went out and, flew stuff on the weekends if I have to, but it all comes down to your drive. Do you want to do it? Yeah, it's going to take extra time. It's going to take you away from your own job site. You got to make that call. And I think if you have a strong team, it's real easy to do.
Yeah. You mentioned this earlier of just like other jobs or opportunities or pursuits that are like tapping you on the shoulder. Is that a good, like, not a good thing, but just like tell me about your perspective around more people asking you to go out and do some of these things that maybe wasn't the case however long ago when you weren't flying.
Um,
Like,
you
do
might
you
have
mind
to
it? Like,
repeat that,
does it
Grant.
bother you to?
I had a real loud car ripping by the office here.
No, all good. I was wondering if that was you exiting us here, but no, I like. Do you mind getting tapped on the shoulder to go do some of those, like the roof inspection thing that you were talking about? Like, does that bother you, or are you like, ah, okay, like I know it's going to provide value and all good, and don't mind being that team member?
No, not it. It doesn't bother me at all. One of the committees that I sit on for Alvin H. Butz, I sit on our safety committee. So there's a handful of us from the field and from the office. So in that committee, we talk about all this stuff. We make sure the safety training and all that stuff is appropriate throughout the company. And when you talk about sending a project manager, from the fire and flood restoration out there by himself to do a roof inspection with multiple extension ladders, you have exposure and there's safety risks involved. So I look at it like, hey, if I can go out there and I can do this roof inspection in 15 minutes and eliminate that safety risk and those safety hazards, that's time well spent. And that's just my perspective. I always like to try to keep safety in the forefront.
I definitely respect. I mean, you have a military background, right?
Yeah, 24 and a half years.
24 and a half years in the military. I think it definitely shows in the concept of like ownership and, just being there for kind of like the rest of your team. I think very often it's easy to say, I'm on this project. That's my responsibility. Leave me alone if it has nothing to do with what's going on in front of me. I think that's definitely admirable. And I think technology too it only can really be expanded by the people who see the bigger picture of this is, our entire company initiative. I think, business development is everybody's job. Safety is everybody's job. It's not just I have a safety manager on my job site that, go make sure the whole covers aren't there. It's walking by and seeing something and correcting that, and or technology saying, hey, there's actually an opportunity for me to, as a superintendent, talking to the owner in the pre-con stage, hey, what are your thoughts on doing this thing, instead of having to wait 5 months, 6 months later down the line for a technology manager to flag it. So I think the concept of
Right.
ownership definitely shows in everything you're doing.
No, absolutely. And we're a big fan of, prevention through design, when it comes to safety as well. And that all leads back to, the pre-con, getting out there, getting on site, getting good visuals of what you have to work with and what can you eliminate through prevention through design. It's huge tools.
It's good stuff. Jan, this has been awesome. Just fun to kind of hear more of behind the scenes of just stuff that, yeah, I think we maybe take for granted from folks in your role, of the value that can come from just a motivated and inspired superintendent. Someone who's like, this is going to help me do my job. And simply put, I'm going to go do my best to learn it, inspect it, amplify it, get it into more people's hands. And yeah, you definitely have done that over on the Alvin team. So yeah, I just appreciate your story and just sharing more of your kind of wisdom with us. And Brian, Jarvis, anything else you guys want to add?
I was just gonna say the deploy day is what, end of April in Philadelphia. Is there a deploy day coming up?
Yeah,
May
that's
May 21st.
Yep.
May 21st. Yeah, I think that.
Oh, really?
Jan, yeah, Jan, will you be there?
Brian's putting you on the spot.
This is the first I'm hearing about it, so I'm going to definitely have to look into this.
There it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
I'll have to see
And
if
we
I
got to
can
talk
drag-
to your customer
I'll have to
success
see if I can
manager.
drag
Whip
my
him into
my
shape.
rep down there.
I think
I
there
was gonna
is
say,
one.
if you want to go meet Jan in person, this is probably a good opportunity to go do so.
Yeah. Jan did get approval. He's coming to Horizons. That's been my focus so far, is get Jan to Horizons.
Oh, nice. There it is. Yeah, you're right, Brian. It's day before my birthday there in May. So yeah, Philly, we're coming to your town.
Yeah, I have to work that out. Yeah, that'd be neat. Are you guys going to be there, or
Oh.
just somebody from DroneDeploy?
I'll be
No.
there.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm sure it'll be a fun crowd. I can't remember if we locked this one or where I should know. Brian, you're putting me on the spot now. But yeah, we're coming to your hood if you're in the Philly area.
I'll definitely have to look that up.
It's awesome. Jarvis, what do you got? Last thoughts?
No, Jan, I mean, honestly, it's been awesome working with you. Thanks for coming on. It was funny when I think it was Grant asked you, like, what's the biggest thing that's come out of your LinkedIn posts? Well, the biggest thing that's come out of your LinkedIn post for me is DroneDeploy/Jarvis got an award. So appreciate that. And yeah, your posts are the biggest LinkedIn responses I've ever gotten to anything that I've done. So yeah, keep up the great work, man. I love your vision. I love what you're doing. I love the way that you kind of package it up and bundle the messaging to say, field crews, this is something we should do. This is me coming from a field background, and it can be done and it should be done.
No, it's cool. I appreciate it. I just want to end with, I am not a paid actor for DroneDeploy. I'm not. It's just, to me, it's a very cool technology that if I get behind something that works and is functioning, and I see it's going to gain traction and it's very useful in the field, I have no problem, pushing.
Don't share all of our secrets behind the scenes. Yes, we did not pay you to come on here, but no, very
Yeah, we're
thankful.
not a paid actor.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, very
You guys
thankful.
get paid?
What's that, Brian?
You guys get paid?
Yeah, right. Brian's over here. He's living off ramen, but no, Jan, really appreciate it. Always fun to hear your story, share more with other folks. And yeah, keep being an evangelist out there. There's plenty more job sites to experience the value that you guys are, and just appreciate all the work that you're doing. So appreciate.
No, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, appreciate you listening in too. Hopefully you guys are left encouraged, and connect with Jan on LinkedIn. You'll be encouraged by a lot of his posts and whatnot, but we will see you in the weeks to come. Thanks, Jan. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.